No international medium of exchange or reserve currency has lasted more than 100 years or so, maybe 125 years. The US dollar has been on top a long time, but unfortunately, many countries were already looking for an alternative because if you have a medium of exchange, it's supposed to be neutral. Anybody's supposed to be able to use it for anything. But unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I'm an American, Washington in recent years says, no, if we don't like you, we're going to cut you off. We're going to make it impossible to use the US dollar. So many people around the world say, wait a minute, that's not the way it's supposed to work. So they have already started looking for a competitor. What happened recently in Ukraine when the US just completely cut off anybody they didn't like and took assets. I mean, they just literally took assets from people, no trials, no anything. In fact, some of the people are not guilty of anything except being the wrong people. So this has now scared a lot of people, and many people are accelerating the move to find something to compete with the dollar. China, Russia, India, Iran, Brazil, many countries are saying we've got to find something else. The fundamentals of America are terrible. We're the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And now the politics are terrible because Washington can cut anybody off at any time, and that can ruin people. And if we're going to have a medium of exchange, international medium of exchange, it has to be neutral. So everybody's looking for something new.
So then let me ask you, what do you think is the strategy in Washington? Do you think this was just a short-sighted decision, or do you think it's a small part of a bigger plan and there's some longer time horizon actions in the pipeline? Like, what was the motivation, therefore, from Washington to weaponize the dollar so dramatically?
Well, the best I can determine is hubris or lack of understanding of how history works, of how the world works. In Washington, they say, listen, you do what we say because we're Washington. They're always saying there must be a rule of law. But what they don't then say is, but we tell you what the rule of law is. You cannot determine the rule of law. You got to listen to us. So people don't like that. I mean, as I say, whether you're friends or enemies of the U.S., you've got to be able to act independently based on facts. And when the facts are that if Washington doesn't like you for any reason, they cut you off. I mean, I hope it's just hubris. It looks like it might just be pure stupidity or lack of knowledge or arrogance. It may be just complete arrogance. As you may know, I don't think more than 30 or 35 countries have joined America on the sanctions against Russia recently. Most countries, by far most countries in the world, have not joined the sanctions, but Washington doesn't care. They say, listen, you do what we say or you will suffer.
That's right. 30 or 35 countries joined the U.S. in those sanctions. There's a lot left in the balance in some major economies. And it makes sense when you think about it because, take Europe, for example, right? They have, said publicly they're going to wean themselves off of Russian oil and gas. And that's an easy thing to say, right? But once winter rolls around and it gets cold outside, it's harder to do because they don't have any other options. And so take that as an example. They'll probably, maybe end up going back to the negotiating table with Russia and say, okay, we'll take what you're selling. And I look at if energy is the real currency of Russia, then maybe that's the conversation that the other, not these 30, 35 countries that have aligned with the US, but every other country is asking themselves is, look, we're heading into an energy shortage. Where can we buy oil and gas? And, Russia's a great example. I wonder if there's going to be a grander redrawing of the geopolitical power balances in the East and the West off the heels of this event.
Well, it already was taking place. I mean, I guess I know what's happened in Asia in the last decade or two. I mean, there are over 3 billion people in Asia. They're not big debtors, most of them. They have gigantic assets, and they're getting very successful. I'm not the only one who knows this. Most people seem to know what's happening in Asia. So the world is already moving towards Asia anyway. China's a very large trading partner with many countries in the world, whether we like it or not. Doesn't matter if we like it, Jay, it's happening. History is happening. History is marching on. So yes, this is happening. And the actions in Washington are just driving more and more people, are making more people examine their positions. And you're exactly right about oil and gas. I mean, the Germans are sitting here suddenly saying to themselves, what do we do now? We've closed our coal mines, we've closed our nuclear power plants, and now the Russians have cut off the oil and gas. So, I mean, not just Germany, but lots of people are suddenly faced with a serious, serious dilemma.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.